No one is above the law. The pounding on my front door sounded like someone was trying to break it down with a battering ram. I shot awake instantly, heart slamming against my ribs. Beside me, my canine partner, Shadow, leapt off the bed with a deep, menacing bark that echoed through the house like a thunderclap. Still half asleep, but already sensing something was wrong, I grabbed my sidearm from the nightstand and clipped my badge to my belt. My instincts, honed over years on the force, never slept, especially not at dawn. I crept toward the front door, Shadow tense at my side, his teeth bared. Peeking through the peephole, almost laughed. Almost. Standing on my porch were two men, both wearing uniforms that looked like they'd been ordered from a cheap costume site. Their badges were shiny enough, but had an eagle emblem that looked like a cartoon version of the real thing. The words stamped underneath were laughable. Hillside Owners Integrity Law Enforcement. HOA. Police. I'd never heard of anything more ridiculous. Hillside was the name of our gated community, but last I checked, we didn't have our own police force. Yet here they were, standing tall, hands resting on belts that looked about as sturdy as costume props. One of them was even wearing mirrored aviators, despite the fact the sun wasn't up yet. The other clutched a clipboard like it was some ancient scroll containing sacred law. I took a deep breath, forced my expression neutral, and opened the door. "Can I help you?" I asked. The one with the sunglasses cleared his throat and puffed out his chest. "Sir, we're with the Hillside Owners Integrity Law Enforcement Division. We're here regarding multiple violations of community policy." I stared at them, waiting for the punchline. It didn't come. HOA. Law enforcement. I repeated slowly. "You realize it's not a real thing, right?" Clipboard guy adjusted his stance and jutted his chin out. "Sir, your vehicle is classified as an unauthorized commercial vehicle. It must be removed immediately, or we'll be forced to issue fines and take further action." I followed his gaze to my driveway, where my fully marked county sheriff's cruiser sat parked, as it always did when I was home. Same vehicle I used to respond to emergencies and arrest actual criminals. Before I could say anything, a shrill voice cut through the early morning stillness. "That's right. I told you he was breaking the rules." Here came trouble. Marching up the walkway was Martha Sinclair, the self-appointed queen of the Hillside HOA. She ruled the neighborhood like a petty dictator, handing out fines for things like leaving garbage bins out past 8 p.m. and daring to plant flowers not approved on the HOA's landscaping list. Martha's platinum blonde bob was perfectly in place, not a hair out of line. She wore yoga pants and a designer workout top that probably cost more than my monthly mortgage payment. In her hand was a Vinnie Starbucks cup, held like a scepter. "I warned you, deputy," she said, emphasizing my title as if it were something dirty. "The HOA rules clearly state that no commercial or government vehicles can be parked in residential areas overnight. And that," she gestured toward my cruiser with a manicured hand, "is a clear violation." Also, her eyes narrowed at Shadow, still growling at the fake officers. "Your dog is a breed that's prohibited under the new regulations." I glanced at Shadow, a German shepherd with years of K-9 training under his collar. He was smarter and more disciplined than most of the criminals I'd arrested. I exhaled slowly. "First of all, Martha, the HOA doesn't have authority over county law enforcement vehicles. Second, Shadow here is a working K-9. He's exempt from any breed restrictions. Third, these two gentlemen," I nodded toward the wannabe cops, "aren't law enforcement." Martha's smirk widened. "Oh, but they are. You see, at our last HOA meeting, we voted to establish our own security force. As HOA president, I have full authority to hire officers to enforce community rules." I folded my arms, biting back a laugh. "Let me get this straight. You made up your own police department to enforce HOA rules, and now you think you can arrest a county deputy?" Her chin lifted. "Not think. We will." Clipboard guy took a step forward. "Sir, if you refuse to comply, we'll have no choice but to detain you for non-compliance and interference with HOA officers." That did it. I laughed. Not a polite chuckle or a sarcastic snort. A full, genuine belly laugh that made Shadow wag his tail in confusion. Sunglasses guy didn't appreciate it. Sir, this is a serious matter. I wiped a tear from my eye. All right, humor me. Show me your legal authority. What agency certified you? What law gives you the power to detain a deputy sheriff? Clipboard guy fumbled with his papers like he might magically find a legitimate answer in the stack. Martha wasn't backing down, though. I don't need your approval, she snapped. As HOA president, I have the right to enforce our community standards. I sighed. Martha, step off my porch. Or what? I pulled out my phone and dialed. You'll see. Seconds later, 2 black SUVs came roaring down the street. They skidded to a stop in front of my house, and out stepped 4 deputies in full uniform, badges gleaming in the early morning light. Deputy Kevin Reyes walked up first. Everything all right, Lieutenant? I gestured toward the fake officers. These 2 gentlemen claim they have legal authority to arrest me. Kevin raised an eyebrow. Under what jurisdiction? Clipboard guy paled. Why? Right, I said. And since impersonating a law enforcement officer is a felony, I'd love to hear your explanation for those fake badges. Sunglasses guy turned to Martha, suddenly panicked. You didn't say anything about impersonating being illegal. Martha stepped back. This is harassment. You can't do this. I'll report all of you to someone. Kevin took a step closer. Ma'am, you're the one who sent fake cops to detain a county deputy. That's a serious charge. Considering you just admitted to organizing it, we're going to need you to come down to the station for questioning. Martha's face twisted in panic. You can't do this to me. I run this neighborhood. I smiled. Not anymore. As Kevin pulled out his cuffs, Martha shrieked. You haven't heard the last of me. The HOA is above the law. Kevin clicked the cuffs around her wrists. Let's test that theory downtown. Martha was still shrieking as she was led to the SUV. The 2 fake officers made a last-ditch effort to run, but Shadow was faster. He took them both down with swift precision, showing them exactly why a police canine is not just a regular pet. As the doors slammed shut, I took a deep breath and headed back inside. Just another day in paradise. Interrogation room. Later that day, Martha sat across from me, arms crossed, lips pressed tight enough to turn white. Her usual smug confidence had drained away. In the adjacent room, her 2 officers sat, pale and miserable. Deputy Reyes had already gotten one of them to confess. Turns out, they were just underpaid security guards Martha had recruited with promises of authority, cheap badges, and talk of being above local law enforcement. Martha, though, she wasn't breaking. You're making a huge mistake, she said through gritted teeth. I have connections. This is harassment. I leaned back. You hired 2 guys to play cop and tried to arrest a county deputy on his front porch. If anyone's guilty of harassment, it's you. She scoffed. You're blowing this out of proportion. Reyes walked in with a thick folder. He dropped it on the table with a loud thunk and slid it toward Martha. Misunderstandings don't usually involve extortion, money laundering, and election fraud. I flipped through the documents. It hadn't taken long to uncover the truth. Martha's reign of terror was more than just petty HOA fines. She'd been issuing fake citations, threatening legal action if homeowners didn't pay up, and funneling the money into an account she controlled. I handle things personally. Martha sniffed when confronted with the financial records. Yeah, Reyes said, like personal trips to the Bahamas, spa days, and that new Mercedes in your driveway. She glared at him, but stayed silent. There's more, I said. We pulled record from your last 5 HOA elections. Funny thing, every ballot has the same handwriting. That's ridiculous. Is it? I slid another paper in front of her. Because we have proof you rigged every single election. Her facade cracked, a flicker of fear in her eyes. Look, Martha, I said, you can come clean now, or we can bury you later. Your call. After a long silence, she finally spoke. I need a lawyer. The fallout. Word spread fast. Homeowners packed the community center for an emergency HOA meeting. They came angry, demanding answers, refunds, resignations. Martha posted bail and showed up, trying to spin a narrative. She claimed it was all a misunderstanding, that she'd been protecting the community. The homeowners weren't buying it. One by one, they told their stories: bogus fines, threats, harassment. An elderly woman nearly lost her home over a fabricated landscaping violation. A single dad's kids were denied pool access because Martha didn't approve of their clothes. The board members who'd once backed her, they turned fast, siding with the angry crowd. An impromptu vote was held. Over 80% of homeowners signed a petition to remove her immediately. Martha stood frozen as they cheered. "You're all making a huge mistake," she cried. "I built this community." "No," someone shouted back. "We'll rebuild it without you." She stormed out of the meeting, nearly running into me on her way to the door. "This isn't over," she hissed. I smiled. "For you? It sure is." The aftermath. Martha's empire crumbled. She faced felony charges for fraud, impersonation, and embezzlement. Her assets were frozen. She was banned from every HOA board in the county. Someone filmed her meltdown at the meeting and posted it online. It went viral. Millions of views. The internet dubbed her Karen the HOA Queen, and her infamous line, "You have no idea what I'm capable of," became a meme. The neighborhood? It healed. New leadership brought fairness. Fines were refunded. People smiled again. Shadow and I kept patrolling the county, taking down real criminals. But every now and then, when I passed the old community center, I smiled. No more fake cops. No more bogus citations. No more self-appointed dictators. Justice had finally come home. And if Martha ever thought about coming back, well, we'd be ready.